introduce our speaker. Ms. Reardon has been working to change the face of STEM. She began her work at Skyline Community College, where she worked as a director of the Mathematics Engineering Science Achievement Program. After successfully establishing Skyline's MESA program, she accepted a position at it has the assistant director of programs for MESA statewide at the University of California's Office of the President, working with nearly 70 community colleges and University MESA programs. In 2012, she joined UC's flagship campus by accepting a position at UC Berkeley in the College of Engineering. At Berkeley, she established Berkeley's award-winning transfer pre-engineering program, T-Prep. She is currently the director of UC Berkeley Transfer Lines Project, where she leads the team committed to promoting the success of transfer-bound students. Throughout her career, Ms. Reardon has helped hundreds of students successfully transfer to top-tier universities, prepare for graduate school, and gain prestigious research fellowships. In 2018, she launched REUfinder.com, a blog aimed at exposing non-traditional students to paid research opportunities. Thank you, Ms. Reardon, for coming, and you may take the floor.
Thank you so much. It's really, really great to be here with you all today. This is actually my favorite time of the year for a number of reasons. This past Monday, some of you may have submitted your UC applications. So those of you that did, want to just give a quick congratulations, because that's a huge milestone journey. And for those of you that have not submitted your transfer applications, I was really, really impressed when I learned that Pre-Med CC offers that certificate, because that certificate really, really shows a lot. It shows interest and passion for your major. And so whether you're applying for, transfer for next year, or perhaps you're, applying for internships and things like that, please be sure to include that on your resume, because that does show a lot about about you as a person. And so thank you for this opportunity to, to present this morning. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And let's see. Okay. Let's see here. And give me 1 second. Okay, are you all able to see my screen? Okay, wonderful. All right, so welcome. Welcome to your summer blueprint. Although it is getting much colder outside, believe it or not, we're preparing for summer, right? And so the investment of time that you do right now is going to pay huge dividends, because when spring comes around, you'll have a lot of options. And then for next summer, if you're thinking about doing research or participating in a research program, all that time that you've done, will give you those options. And so what we're here today to do is to really introduce you to the steps and how to explore research opportunities and how to be a competitive applicant. Although we are on Zoom, I always like to make these as interactive as possible, right? Obviously, we'll share the slides, after the presentation. But if you have any questions at all, please feel free to put them in the chat as we go. If there's any, thing that doesn't make sense, or you're not sure about, or you want to clarify, feel free to ask your questions in the chat. And then after, I kind of do go through the slides, then we'll allow plenty of time for Q&A, because I want to make sure that you all leave here with two things. One is that you know exactly what's needed to prepare for these programs and have a good idea. And the second thing, and I really, really want to emphasize, is that there are opportunities for everyone. Right? So maybe you're a first year student, right? Maybe this is your first year in college and you haven't had any research experience, or maybe limited exposure. There are programs for you. Maybe you've already graduated. Maybe you're a post-bac student, right? Maybe you've already graduated, or maybe you just graduated this fall. Shout out to those fall graduates, right? So there's something for everyone. So don't feel that, based on, your unique situation, that, maybe you don't check the box that, that it looks like. And I will say that if you are, in that unique situation, there's something for everyone, right? So this is the importance of your resume, and this is the importance of really like explaining in your essays, why you're interested in these programs. So we'll go ahead and get started. And let's see. Okay. And I'm going to pull up the chat just so I can see it as we go. Okay. So oh, I don't know why. Okay. So I always like to start off every presentation. Just when I, go to a presentation, I like to know a little bit about the speaker, about their motivation, about what brings them to this, what's their background. And so I'm just going to briefly kind of go over that with you all to give you a sense of who I am and my journey, and really, how did I get here? How did I get started in encouraging students to pursue research and internship programs? So Tiffany Reardon, that's me. Now you can Google some of the things I've done, and you read my bio, but let me tell you, I did not start off understanding that this is what I was going to do, right? I did not have any idea. I was a first generation college student, first in my family to go to college. When we say first generation college student, what we mean is that none of your, mom or dad, parents graduated from a university in the US, right? So let's say you have a parent who graduated from a university in another country and you're attending school in the US. You're considered a first generation college student. I mention that because a lot of students aren't aware. They're like, oh, my brother goes to college or my cousin went to college. But if your parents graduated from a university in outside of the US, then you are considered a first-gen college student. And I mention that because there are a lot of resources for students. I was also a student parent. So, we might have some student parents on here. So as a first generation college student and as a student parent, I really did not understand some of the resources that were available to me. And I really didn't understand kind of how to articulate what I was doing, and it really didn't like fit into the box of many of my peers. I say that because I really want folks to understand that, your unique journey and celebrating your unique journey is something you should do. I don't have a STEM background. Funny, I've been in this field for 25 years. I don't have a STEM background. I actually have a degree in sociology, my undergrad, and my master's is in education. I consider myself an engineer by osmosis because I've been working with engineers for a long, long time. And I know a thing or two about transfer students. Transfer students are my favorite students to work with. I've worked with, grad students, undergrads, high school students, you name it. I like transfer students the best. And here's why I like transfer students the best. There is really this bond and community. So when you transfer to a university, oftentimes, you might meet another transfer student and there's this instant connection, right? So when you meet another transfer student, there's instant connection. They know the journey, they know the struggle, and they're always willing to help other students, which I think is a beautiful, beautiful thing. I mean, not to say that the other, the other students don't, but I think it really is very special. And that community, part of community college, they also bring that into other settings, and I love that. And I say imposter syndrome no more. Because when I was, a college student, I didn't even know what the term imposter syndrome was, but I had it. But nowadays we know what imposter syndrome means. And imposter syndrome means typically that maybe you're in a setting and you feel like you're different, or you feel like you don't belong. And I really want you to know that you do belong. You might notice I did not say four-year university. I hate that term, four-year university. It took me 7 years to get my four-year degree. But in that journey and in doing that, it really prepared me for anything. And so again, your timeline is your timeline. You don't have to, race through it. You don't have to compare yourself to anyone else. What your journey is your journey. Own that journey, celebrate that journey, and be very proud of that journey. So that's just a little bit about me. And so now I'd like to focus on you. So, REU Finder, so quick plug, REU Finder is a website that I created in 2018. And I created that website because I worked as a Mesa director for 8 years at a Skyline College, which is a tiny college in San Bruno. And I started noticing I had a student that went away to a summer research program and she loved it. She had such a wonderful experience and she came back and she was so excited about it. And I kind of looked into it and I thought, wow, these are really great experiences. And so I encouraged, my other students to do these programs as well. And then I told colleagues, and then we had this really robust network. And someone said, why don't you do a website? And I thought, oh, that's a good idea. And there are other websites out there for sure. I'm going to actually, give you some information about these websites. But I think one of the differences between the RU Finder is that we put like right up front, like the GPA required, the citizenship required, like all that. So you don't have to kind of dig through because I know that your time is very valuable. But I also include things, scholarships, grad school, and sometimes I'll do some posts on just navigating college, right? It really is like a journal, if you will. So if that's of interest, I encourage you to check it out. Okay, so here's the fun part. Who's here today? If you want to put in the chat, if you want to put in the chat, your major. I put some, examples. If we have some astronomy, bio, chem, computer science, data science, engineering, you can just type in the chat. I like to know kind of who the audience is because I definitely like to tailor it to whoever I'm talking to. It sounds like we have a lot of pre-med students on here, which is great. Now, the cool thing about pre-med, which I really appreciate and enjoy, is you can major in anything, right? I mean, yes, there is kind of STEM coursework that you'll need to take, but in terms of majors, you have a choice of what you want to major in. So we've got some kinesiology, we've got psychology, we've got pre-med, we've got medical studies. Now here's the cool thing. So for those of you that are community college students, I want to point something out that I've seen a lot, especially in regards to students transferring to universities. Sometimes a student will say like, oh, I'm a kinesiology major, but this university doesn't have my major. Chances are they might actually have your major. It just might be called something else, right? So I work at UC Berkeley, for example, right? And we don't have a kinesiology major at Berkeley, but if you look under the College of Natural Resources, there are majors that have elements of toxicology in the coursework, right? So I encourage you as you explore majors and as you explore transfer opportunities, if you look on the website and you're like, oh, they don't have my major, I encourage you to dig deeper because chances are they do have your major. It's just called something else, right? So we've got pre-pharmacy, pre-med, human biology, healthcare administration. Oh, very cool. That's very cool. Fun fact, I have a former student, believe it or not, who was a transfer student and came to UC Berkeley and decided that they wanted to, she was a industrial engineering and operations research major at Cal. And she decided she wanted to do healthcare administration. Now she's doing a master's in that program. So again, these paths are really cool and wonderful. So this is good. This is helpful for me to know. Okay. So where are you? I'm actually, believe it or not, in Arizona right now, taking some, opportunity to just kind of, travel and just, we had a very, very busy admission season. So I'm in Arizona. So it's 1 hour later than California. Um, but sometimes on these webinars, we have people from all over, right? We have people from out of state, maybe out of the country. Looks like we mostly have California, which is cool. Skyline College, yay. All right. Yes, shout out to Skyline. Florida, very cool. California. So we have folks from all over, which is very cool. So very nice. Between Phoenix and Tucson. Okay, all right. Well, I'm in Scottsdale, so we are we're in the same time zone. So thank you for joining us today. So very cool. Washington State. Okay, this is great. This is very cool. Love it. All right. So why do research as a community college student? So I realize that some of you might not be community college students. Maybe you're already at a university. Maybe you are a post-baccalaureate. Maybe you're a grad student, right? But really for those students that are community college students, I really want to reiterate that doing community college can strengthen your transfer applications. They'll also ultimately strengthen your graduate school applications or even your, job applications, med school applications. But they are experiences that are valued and they are jobs at the end of the day, right? Sometimes we think like, oh, an internship is different. It is different, but ultimately there are experiences and they illustrate work experience and they illustrate that you've dedicated time to something, you've completed something. And so, you want to treat it as a job. They also can help you demonstrate interest in your major. As students that are attending community college, typically you only have access to lower division coursework, right? So the students that we have on today's call, the bio students, the, pre-pharmacy, biochem, biology, you have classes that you take at community college. You take math, you take physics, you take chemistry, right? You take these lower division courses. What you might notice is that you also will have, students from other majors, right? Maybe you have some computer science majors in your classes. Maybe you have some engineering students in your classes, right? So you're doing the foundational coursework. And so what these programs, will help you do is demonstrate not only your interest in the major, but demonstrate the understanding and the applications of your major. Because what happens is when you transfer, that's when you start taking, kind of the upper division coursework. And I really encourage you, if you haven't already transferred, to, if you have an opportunity to participate in one of these programs, this will really give you a glimpse of what to expect in upper division coursework and to see if you like it or not. I can't tell you the worst experience is when you have a student that transfers to a university and they're like, oh, this isn't really my major. This isn't what I wanted. This isn't what I thought it was, right? So I encourage you to, at the very least, please look at the upper division coursework in the majors that you're thinking of. And, applying to these programs will also give you a glimpse of that as well. So that's a, kind of a bonus. And then ultimately it will strengthen your transfer applications. When, I've read transfer applications for many years, and when someone has one of these programs, really it kind of puts them at a huge advantage because, they know what their major is. All right. So why do why do research as a community college student? As I mentioned, it'll strengthen your applications, but ultimately, beyond that, you'll be able to make contributions to the research world, right? So you're participating in research, you're doing something. It's not uncommon for students to perhaps present at a conference. There's a lot of really good conferences that you can do, presentations at. Again, it'll strengthen your transfer applications. But making those contributions to the research world is really, really something special that not a lot of people can say that they did, right? So I encourage, you to consider that for that as well. Okay, the types of undergraduate research programs. So when we think about undergraduate research programs, I like to categorize them in four different buckets, if you will. One might be an enrichment program. So for those students that are pre-med, pre-pharmacy, pre-dental, pre-vet, you might participate in an enrichment program. So you might do, some combination of research, but you also might do some, job shadowing. You might do some, let's say if you're in, a pre-med one, you might do an MCAT, preparation course. You might do, clinics. You might go to clinics. You might volunteer. You might do things like that. So that enrichment program is really kind of giving you the glimpse of, whether it's med school or, dental school. Maybe it's hosted by, the med school or the dental school. So it's a little bit different than, say, an REU program. So an REU program, an REU standing for Research Experience for Undergrads, that is typically a structured program where they have, they can have anywhere from 8 to 10 students that participate in a, 8 to 10 week program on a college campus. They're typically paid. They oftentimes will offer things like, housing stipends. Usually you'll get housing, you'll either get a housing stipend or you'll get, dorm housing on campus. You get a meal card. They'll usually pay for your travel if you're, traveling from out of the area. And they often have at the very end, maybe you'll do a poster session. So you do a poster of your research. Sometimes you'll do a talk. Some might even have you write a technical paper, but you're working on a project for this, entire duration of the program. And then they oftentimes will have fun social activities for, students to get to know each other. The third one is a little bit different. This would be an international research for students, and what's called IRES. And those are great as well. Like maybe you've always wanted to travel to another country, right? So you can do research, but you do research in another country. How exciting is that? And I've seen some of those. Now, for those, for example, those deadlines, even though it might be a summer program, those deadlines are going to be a lot sooner. I know of, off the top of my head, I know of 3 summer programs, all of which have deadlines in the end of December, right? So you can find those on REU Finder, but those deadlines, because you got to get your passport, you got to get, all your travel situated. So those deadlines will be much sooner. Most programs for summer, the average, some will be mid-January, some will be, mid-February, but that's kind of the window. Some are also, due in August. Sometimes they don't find out if they have the funding, so it varies, but it's never too early. And the fact that you're, here today and kind of preparing for these programs, that's great. You're already ahead of the game. The last portion is academic year research with faculty. So those of you that are at community colleges, you can, or, universities, you can do independent research, with a faculty member. Maybe there's a lab that, if you're at a university, you might do, research in a lab, usually working with a graduate student. If you're at a community college, maybe you've worked on an honors class, right? It's not uncommon if you've done an honors class and maybe you really enjoyed the project. You might even tell your professor, hey, I really enjoyed this and I'd like to continue it and follow up on it. And oftentimes that's research. And sometimes students don't, realize that. I once had a student who he was a chem major and he was at a community college in the Central Valley in California, and he was tutoring. He was tutoring chemistry. He really loved chemistry. He was a chem tutor, and his faculty was like, hey, you have a knack for tutoring. I want you to, kind of help me develop some things. And so they were, developing some projects. Turns out that he was actually developing curriculum, right, with his professor. And they were also testing the curriculum to see, if it made a difference in students' performance in chemistry. Guess what? That's research, right? And they also presented it at a conference. He had no idea that what he was doing was research. It was pretty fun and pretty exciting because when he got to Cal, I'm like, oh my goodness, you already have research, you already have a publication, right? So again, it doesn't always look the same, but you have options that you can participate in. All right. So, where do these take place, right? So usually, like I said, they're usually in a, university lab or a research center, right? Cohort, you're going to meet students from all over, the country. Usually, if it's a National Science Foundation funded project, over half of the student participants have to be from another university. So you will meet students from other schools, which is great, especially if you're thinking about grad school, if you're thinking about, transferring. You can talk to the other students and, ask them about their experiences and just kind of get exposure to another school and do it for pay. I know some students are like, well, I would do it for free. It would be, fun. But at the end of the day, work is work. And if you keep doing stuff for free, when it comes time to, negotiate job offers, and if you, don't have any paid things, and plus college is expensive, right? So having an experience like this and having pay if you don't need the money, just put it in the bank, right? But most students do need the money. I mean, it's very expensive, especially I see we have a lot of California students. So definitely you want to do a paid experience. And you're all very smart and you're all, pursuing some really tough majors. So you should be paid. And then the application of topics that you've learned in the classroom. So again, if you're taking lower division coursework, and sometimes students might say, well, I'm a first year student. Like, what do I know, right? I've only taken these classes. Well, if you're a first year student, you're taking classes now, and then you're going to take more classes in spring. By the time that you do this research program, you're going to be a rising sophomore, right? And they have programs for these types of programs for high school students, right? So there's a whole, bunch of programs that will also take high school students. So if you're like, oh, it's too soon in my career, trust me, you just have to have the interest, the aptitude to do these programs, and they don't expect you to know everything. In addition, some of these programs will offer professional development. So sometimes they'll offer help with graduate school. Maybe they'll talk about fellowships for grad school. Maybe they'll talk about um, personal, statements and personal insight questions or, college applications, especially if it's a program that has predominantly community college students. Maybe, sometimes they'll do that. Sometimes they put in money for students to attend conferences, which is great, right? So they're willing to pay for that. And then lastly, you get to experience life as a researcher, which gives you a glimpse of life as grad school. Or if you're interested in, pre-med or pre-dental or pre-pharmacy, it also gives you a glimpse of that as well, right? I'll never forget, I had a student one time who, she really wanted to go to this particular school. Like, she was really, really invested in the school. This was like her dream school. And she spent a summer there and she said, oh, I couldn't stand, I couldn't wait to go home. I didn't like it. And I thought, that's great because you found out what, you didn't like. And then she changed not only her the school that she wanted to transfer to, but ultimately she changed her major because she was introduced to something different. So again, this exposure is good. The more exposure you get, the better. So then when you make those big choices about grad school or, where to transfer to, you make an informed decision. And I think making an informed decision is really, really the best thing that you can do for your future. All right. So who funds these programs? So here's just a glimpse. There's obviously others, but these are kind of the, standard ones. So as you, kind of get, in that REU search mode, um, you're gonna definitely encounter these different organizations and agencies, one of which is the National Science Foundation. Now, NSF, or what we call the NSF, the National Science Foundation funds a lot of research. So a lot of these projects and programs that you'll see, they might say, an NSF sponsored one. The US Department of Energy US Department of Energy, or DOE, they fund a lot of these projects. In addition, I believe there's 19 national labs around the country. So UC Berkeley, for example, we have the Lawrence Berkeley National Lab on our campus. It's just up the hill. That is a US DOE lab. Stanford has the Stanford Linear Accelerator Center. That's a National Science Fund, or sorry, a US DOE lab. That's on their campus, right? So these are opportunities that you can, participate in a DOE lab. And they have a program. Now, their deadline for these ones are a little bit sooner. I believe they're in like, I think it's January 10th or something like that, maybe even the 6th, but it is pretty earlier than a lot of the other programs. And the cool thing about the DOE labs that I like is that they actually have programs in summer. So, the summer research program, but they also have programs in the fall and in the spring. So, depending on, that it might vary a little bit differently, but I have seen students, and for example, I've seen students that have done these, during the academic year as well. The NIH, National Institutes of Health, they have a number of programs. So we have one for high school students, they have one for undergrads, and they have one specifically for community college students. I believe you guys had a speaker recently, so I definitely encourage you to watch the video, find out. I have some information on the program, but definitely, check out the video and kind of, watch that because you'll hear directly from the experts. NASA is another one. The cool thing about NASA is NASA has a number of opportunities that are remote and then, of course, in person, right? So you can apply for a NASA position. And similarly, some of these are during the academic year, some of them are from the summer. So that's something you might want to consider. The U.S. Department of Agriculture, I've seen a growing number of USDA projects working with community colleges, which I think is great. So if you're interested in USDA, and they do a lot of different things. So that might be something that you're interested in. And finally, the Amgen Scholars Program. Now, the Amgen Scholars Program, they have programs all over the world, right? So it's not just in the US. They have Canada, they have Asia, they have, Europe, they have them all over. Typically, Amgen Scholars, they want students that are juniors or, non-graduating seniors. But that is something, also that program's been around for a long time. It's a very selective program. And again, that might be something. So I just wanted to kind of give you a glimpse of all of these. In addition, we use a lot of acronyms, right, in STEM. So if you ever hear any of these, the USDA, the NIH, the NSF, now you know what they are, right? Okay. Now, finding your research opportunities. So there's a 4 websites. So between these 4 websites, you're set, right? You can Google, but I mean, if you want to, but I think that, these like bookmarking these 4 websites, you'll really be able to find something. So RE Finder. So again, as I mentioned, I put the deadlines needed. I put the citizenship requirements, and I put the GPA. Now, if there's no GPA listed, guess what? They don't have a minimum GPA, right? So, some programs, want students with, I don't know, maybe they want students with the 3.2, right? They're like, okay, you have to have a 3.2 or higher. Some programs are like, we don't care about the GPA, right? You just have to be in good academic standing. And so those programs, they're not really, looking at the GPA, they're looking at the student and what the student brings, right? Your GPA is not a reflection of your capabilities at all. Something that, a lot of students don't realize this until, they transfer is that some universities, right? Some universities, they don't even give grades the first year. They just do credit, no credit. So, and also like the grade distributions can vary, right? Some schools like, I've done graduate admissions, and some schools like everybody gets really high grades. Other schools, that's not so, right? There's this kind of grade deflation going on. With that said, the GPA does not reflect your capability. I've known students that have had very, very high GPAs, and you ask them about their understanding, and it's like they just test well. Other students, maybe they've had to retake a class or two. And they really, really, so everybody learns differently, right? So if your GPA doesn't reflect your capabilities, please don't be discouraged, because it's, you're a lot more than your GPA. The AAMC is also another really good resource, especially for pre-med students. So this is the American Association of Medical Colleges. So on this website, you're going to see all the different, REU experiences and enrichment experiences for pre-med students. I would encourage you to peruse these. And in addition, you also, maybe these are some schools that you've thought about for medical school, or maybe you didn't know that these, were options for medical school. So take a look at those. The Pathways to Science is another really good one. I like the Pathways to Science one because you can filter it by location, which is pretty cool. Like, maybe you've always wanted to go to, a school on the East Coast, or maybe you're interested in, a particular state or something like that. You can filter it by that. You can also filter it by research area and discipline. The last one is the NSF. So the NSF.gov, the NSF has a listing of all of the REU programs that they have funded, which is really good to know. But all that will tell you is that if they have an REU at that school, you then have to go and you have to, click and see. And the reason why I'm not like just saying go to that one is because oftentimes it won't show you what like the requirements are, right? If they're like, oh, we only want juniors, or oh, it's only limited to US citizens, right? Whereas REU Finder, like we put, if it's only limited to US citizens, we also have 2 pages on the REU Finder. One is specifically highlighting programs that fund international students. And then the other one is for programs that will fund undocumented students. So I mention that because even though the research itself, right? Let's say the research itself is funded by the National Science Foundation or funded by, USDA, right? If the research project itself is funded by that, oftentimes the host institution will have additional funding sources where they aren't limited to US citizens. So if you're an undocumented student, if you are a international student, you have opportunities. Sometimes students think, well, I'm an international student, so I have to do it for free. No, you don't have to do it for free. You just have to, be resourceful and connect with different programs. So this kind of, these 4 websites, the NSF also has the ETAP website where you can also do the ETAP website sometimes is not always updated. So you can, definitely, and sometimes the programs that you go to, like they will have their application on the ETAP website, and you'll even see that it's not always updated. So I didn't include that on there because typically when you apply to the program, it'll take you to that site. So between these 4, you're in pretty good shape. All right. So here's some terms that you might encounter. One is rolling admissions. Does anyone want to take a stab at what rolling admissions means? So rolling admissions, what does that mean? You can put it in the chat if you want. Rolling admissions. I don't think anyone's put anything yet. So rolling admissions, anyone want to take a guess what that means? Okay, so rolling admissions means that as soon as they get applications, they're going to start, putting people, they're going to start making offers, right? So if you see a program that says rolling admissions, you want to, kind of apply to those ones first, because they will fill as they go, right? Maybe they're like, okay, deadline's February 1st, but we have a rolling admissions until that time, right? So that means you can apply until February 1st, but chances are, they really, want to grab those top students. I used to run an REU program at Cal, and I did a rolling admissions, right? Because I was like, okay, I want to get, these students before the other students get them, right? So rolling admissions, you definitely want to, apply sooner rather than later. Rising sophomores. So right now, if you are a freshman or a first year, you're considered a rising sophomore because in the fall, you're going to be a sophomore, right? Similarly, if you're a second year student or a sophomore, you'll be a rising junior. Non-graduating senior, what does that mean? Non-graduating senior means that when the program ends, like let's say the program's from June to August, you'll be going back to your campus that fall, right? So when you transfer to university, oftentimes, especially community college students, they might use an additional semester and they might graduate in the fall semester. Now, one of the things that I always caution students is like, let's say you're at a university already, right? Let's say you're at a university already and you're a first year and you're like, okay, but I have so many AP classes that when I look, I'm technically a sophomore. Although it might say you're a sophomore GPA wise or unit wise, the thing is you want to pay attention. What they mean is like first year, second year, third year. That's important because if you, let's say, for example, that you have a lot of AP classes, right? And you're like, okay, well, my system says I'm a junior. And then you apply to something like the Amgen Scholars Program, you're actually technically not a junior, right? So you don't want them to have to rescind the offer. And then again, non-graduating seniors, that means that you're a senior, but you're not yet graduating. PI, principal investigator. This is something that you're going to use a lot. That just basically means the lead faculty member that's overseeing the research project. Sometimes there's co-PIs, but the PI is somebody who is going to be someone that you'll work with, someone who, when you get a letter of recommendation, that's the person that'll, sign off on it. And ultimately, that's the person that you'll, work with. Another term that you might encounter is students from institutions with limited research opportunities. So some programs will specifically say, we want students from community colleges, right? And so, on REU Finder, we have a whole page of, students that, or programs that are looking for students from community colleges. But if they say students from institutions with limited research opportunities, that also means community colleges, right? So you want to look for that as well. Liberal arts colleges, right? So if you go to a school that's, not as, well known for the research or doesn't, does some research, right? So every school does some level of research, but maybe a school that's not as it's not as abundant to get research opportunities. They want you, right? So again, community college, smaller college, liberal arts colleges, schools where they have limited opportunities, they want you. And then finally, first generation college students, which as we mentioned, that means neither of your parents has a university degree from the US. Any questions about any of those? About anything? I see we have Q&A. We have one question. Are there any opportunities for recent Masters of Public Health graduates? I'm sure there are. Off the top of my head, I don't know of any, but absolutely, I think if you were to go to Pathways to Science, for example, and if you were to filter by, already graduated, that might be a good one. But I definitely think between those four, websites that I mentioned, you'll certainly find something there. All right. Then what does the application process look like? So typically, there's four things you'll need. One, you're going to write essays, right? You have to write essays. You'll have to have a resume or a CV, which is basically a research resume, right? So those of you that have resumes, let's say you go to a career fair, or let's say you apply for a job, the typical resume is usually one page, right? It's short and sweet, like you're graduated, this school, your skills, your things that you've done. But your research resume, right? Unless it says only one page, if it does not say one page, it's totally fine to have two pages, a CV. And by the time that you apply to medical school, by the time you apply to grad school, um, your resume should be more than 2 pages. Like there is no reason why you should have a 1 page resume, because you will have experiences and it's not going to fit on 1 page unless they say we only want a 1 page. I would say take advantage of the opportunity to kind of illustrate. And then of course, letters of recommendation and transcripts. So we'll go a little.
Miss Reardon, I just was gonna for like health career connection has
Uh-huh.
um a lot of like public health, public management, and it's a good program, and I just put the link in there
Oh,
and you guys can look
wonderful.
at it.
That's great. Absolutely. Oh, that's a good one. I'll put this on the RU finder. That's
And
wonderful.
we've had Mr. Oxendine, who's the founder and president of the whole thing, he's comes every fall, so
Nice.
he's actually a UC Berkeley person. He was the dean of public health for a long time.
Very
And
cool.
now he's just faculty, but he's been at the UC Berkeley for a very long time. And so yeah, just go back and watch the previous sessions. But that's a really good one.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think that the beautiful thing about pre-med CC is like you have this library of you have this library of programs straight from the experts, right? So you can go back and watch those and see what they're looking for and absolutely apply. So as I mentioned, so you're gonna need to write some essays, you're gonna need to have a resume or a CV, you're gonna have to have letters of recommendation and transcripts. So letters of recommendation. So letters of recommendation are very important. Grades alone are not going to give you strong letters of recommendation. Even if you're getting an A plus, you need to go to office hours, right? So go to office hours, connect with people, right? So I would encourage you, maybe this semester, I know this semester is kind of winding down and going to, a close, but if you are applying for a research experience and you have a professor in mind that you have done well in their class, what I would encourage you to do as soon as possible, can reach out to them, connect to them. If you're at a community college, chances are it's a little bit easier to kind of connect with your professor. Go to their office hours, email them, tell them exactly what programs you're applying to. Tell them why you're applying to these programs. Give them some talking points. Maybe give them your resume, right? Um, you can give them your essays, but the fact of the matter is they probably won't read the essays, but give them talking points, right? Maybe, for example, they don't know things about you that are pertinent to the opportunity that you're applying to, right? Maybe your dream is to go, be a dentist. You want to go to dental school, and then you're applying to transfer, and here's your major, right? Maybe there's experiences that you have that they don't know about. So make sure you tell them. Jobs and internships. Maybe you had an internship already. Maybe you have a job, right? These are things that you can utilize and you can optimize that experience that you already have. Sometimes students will say, well, I worked for 2 years at this job, but it doesn't have anything to do with my major. It doesn't matter if it had anything to do with your major because the skills that you acquired and the skills that you've illustrated, that person can vouch for you, right? Let's say you worked at an internship or you had a job for, each summer for, 2 years, right? That person can say, well, I had this person in my program and they were, a great student and they, were very actively engaged. Um, you also, again, give them talking points, right? They might not remember, or maybe they do remember, but giving them talking points might be just kind of making it easier for them. What I like to encourage people to do is I like to encourage people to if you use Google, right? Maybe have a Google spreadsheet and put in that spreadsheet, the name of the program, the deadline, maybe some bullet points, and then a link to the website. Just make it easy for the person. Like here's the programs I'm applying to, here's, the deadlines, here's what they're looking for, here's why I'm applying. And then of course, giving them, all the information they need so then they can easily write a letter. Now, here's the cool thing. Once somebody writes one letter, it's very, very easy to write another letter, right? So just, kind of doing that. So I definitely encourage you. Strong letters of recommendation are, very, very crucial. And how you get strong letters is by connecting with people. Also, very important, if you get accepted into one of these, let the person know, right? There's nothing worse, and I've had it happen to me, unfortunately, and I know other colleagues have as well. You work with a student and you like help them with their essays and you write them a letter of recommendation, and then you don't hear from them. And you're like, okay, I guess they didn't get in, right? And then, you see them maybe 6 months later. Oh, what happened? Oh, yeah, I got in. It was great. Oh, yeah, thanks, right? So you want to give people the courtesy, right? Of, hey, thank you for your support. Even if you didn't get in, that's okay too. Hey, thank you for your support. You want to keep that bridge, keep them, engaged and keep that bridge, because chances are you will probably ask them for a future letter of recommendation. Oh, this is a good one. If you are a non-traditional student veteran, can the letters of recommendation be from the military? Oh, absolutely. Yes. 100%. I have had so many students, veteran students that have had opportunities, that have, gotten, research opportunities, that have gotten jobs. I had a student one time, and actually, fun fact, for the Department of Energy and places like that, I would definitely look at the Department of Energy. They would absolutely, places like, in addition to Department of Energy, maybe like the Lawrence, or Los Alamos labs, they definitely would be good, depending on what your major is. But Los Alamos labs, Department of Energy labs. I know that there are some, many programs that will specifically say that they encourage, applications from veterans. So that might be something, but 100%. I once had a student who, he was a transfer student who went to UC Berkeley, and he went to the career fair, and he was offered a job like on the spot, right? And he was like, oh my goodness, like they just offered me a job on the spot, because he had so much experience from his time in the military. And so 100%, if you have, letters, if you have letters that, from people in the military that can kind of vouch for you, 100%, you should include those. It doesn't all have to be, professors from classes you've taken. Usually they want two letters. So maybe one from, somebody in the military, or, one from a professor. Sometimes they want three, but usually two. If they only want one, right? Let's say they only want one letter of recommendation, and maybe maybe you just transferred to, the university, and you're like, there's a lot of people in my class, I don't really know my professors that well, then you might ask for someone from that. You probably, the experiences that you've had in the military, leverage those experiences. Again, I've had a lot of wonderful, wonderful students that were veterans, that have been very, very sought after and recruited for grad school, recruited for internships, recruited for research programs. So you absolutely, don't want to neglect to include all the things that you've done in your time in the military. Okay. So letters of recommendation, yes, STEM faculty, counselors, MESA directors, STEM center directors, supervisors, managers. No, friends or family or classmates. Even though I'm sure that, maybe you helped a friend in calculus, and because of you, they were able to, teach calculus, right? Maybe they were able to, like you taught them calculus, right? Maybe they were really struggling, and you tutored them and they did great, and they're really grateful for that. They should not write you a letter of recommendation. What I will say is if there are people that you have helped and really you feel that they're like would be willing to write you a letter of recommendation, what I would say is that oftentimes if you want to get nominated for something, and this doesn't have anything to do with REU programs, directly, but let's say, for example, your school has an award, right? Or your university has an award, and you can be nominated by friends or classmates. That's fine. And then ultimately, if you get that award, hey, you can put that on your, resume or application. But for letters of recommendation, like official letters of recommendation, then you should be reaching out to, STEM faculty, counselors, MESA directors, STEM center directors, supervisors, and managers. Even if this person knows you very well, make sure, if there's things that you want them to highlight, give them some talking points and get to know people, right? So getting to know people. I know, especially if you're, a student that's a little bit more introverted, it's like, oh, I gotta talk to people. I gotta, make small talk. I know it's work, but it's part of it, right? It's part of it. And then LinkedIn is a very, very powerful tool that I highly encourage you all to have a LinkedIn. Any college student or any, recent grad should have a LinkedIn. It's a very, very useful, makes it easy, and, connecting with people. Also, if you put out there that you're interested in programs, don't be surprised if someone, reaches out to you and says, hey, we've got this program. Do you want to apply for it? Are you interested in it? But getting those connections is really, really important because those are the people that are going to say, hey, this candidate is very, top candidate and you should, strongly consider them for your program. Okay, so what do you need to include on your resume or CV? So the resume or CV, I've had a lot of students that are like really, really stressed about, creating a resume. It can be, right? Usually, especially if a student has a lot of things to put, I mean, that's a good problem to have, right? But really condensing your project. And so here are here for, at least for REUs, this is what I would include. If I were you. One is your education. So, where are you? What are you majoring in? When do you graduate? Right? That should be top. Sometimes people at the very bottom. No, no, no. That needs to go at the top, right? Education, where you're going to school, when you graduate, what are you majoring in? Now, let's say that you're transferring next fall, right? You don't know where you're going to yet, right? What you can say is, transferring in, fall 2025 and, you don't know where yet, but that's fine. But just indicating that the course is taken. This is important. So the course is taken. So you don't want to put like, I took Chem 101, I took Chem 2B, blah, blah, blah. You want to put the actual and only include the relevant courses, right? So if it's organic chemistry, if it's, physics with calculus, if it's C++, right? You want to include just, so they know. Don't make it a replica of your transcript because they're already going to see your transcript, right? But you want to highlight courses that you've taken. Work experience, right? Any type of work experience. Maybe you worked at McDonald's, right? Great. McDonald's is actually a very hard job. McDonald's, and I've had many students that have worked at McDonald's or any restaurant, right? So if you work at a place like McDonald's, chances are you have to do a lot of safety training. It's very fast paced. You have to be accurate. You have to be timely. You have to handle a lot of equipment, right? If you're going into a lab, same exact thing, right? So work experience. So highlighting that work experience and taking a look at what the programs are looking for and kind of shaping that. There's also some really, really good resume templates out there, right? I'm not saying copy them verbatim, but just for inspiration, there's a good way to articulate, what you've done, even if it doesn't appear to be, as closely tied to your major. Projects. Maybe you worked on an honors project. Maybe you worked on a project as part of a club. Maybe you just did an independent project just for fun, right? Including those projects as well. Leadership, right? Leadership. Maybe you're president of a club. Maybe you're in student government, right? Any leadership. Maybe you're in a leadership program, right? Anything that you would like to highlight would be good to include. Volunteer experience, right? Maybe you've done some volunteer experience, might or might not be related to your major, but that just shows that you can work with people, right? That's all volunteer experience shows. You can work with people, you care for others, and you can contribute something, right? Because the part of research usually is for the greater good, right? So maybe that just kind of illustrates, and maybe it's something related to your major. That's a plus, but it doesn't, always have to be. You might also include interests and hobbies. So that's something that I think including interests and hobbies, maybe you're really, really into, I don't know, Taekwondo, right? Maybe you're really into playing guitar. Maybe you're in a band, maybe, something like that. The reason why I like to encourage people to put interests and hobbies is because it helps you stand out. People remember, right? Maybe you're like, I don't know, maybe you can do Rubik's Cube really fast, right? I've seen that one, right? I'll remember that, right? Like, oh yeah, that's the student that does Rubik's Cube really fast. Or maybe that's a student who, has a website they created, or, something they've created. Maybe that's the student who, made a film, an independent film, right? Anything that you do, interests or hobbies, it kind of shows a little bit about your personality, and it's memorable, because the key is for all of these applications, you want to have something memorable, right? And being genuine and being authentic is always a plus. All right. So we have a couple questions. I think if transfer schools require two, can they both be military, or does one need to be academic? So, or does it depend on the school? So if transfer schools require two. So if they require two, then, again, and I don't know if you're a, um, current transfer student, like you've already transferred or you're about to transfer, but I would say, maybe one from the military and then one from like a professor, that you've taken. Here's one. Okay, I'm a current freshman at a four-year university. How far
But
back can I?
some of the summer programs or research, or they would specifically ask, like, we want that from your science professor. Like, I
Uh-huh.
know, like the NIH one,
Uh-huh.
they don't want, like, they just directly want it from your science professors.
Yeah.
And so if get one from, like, I don't know, the person you worked under, um but not, it's not a science professor or somebody who has not seen you in lab, then they will, I mean, it's gonna impact you. But like military and other stuff are really good for transfer, other stuff that are not like science lab based.
Right. And some of the STEM classes that you've taken, and also it depends on the program, right? If it
Yeah.
depends on the program. Like, let's say, for example, you're applying for a computer science REU, and let's say, for instance, you ran a coding boot camp for high school students, right? You can talk about that. You know what I mean? Okay, another one. I am a current freshman at a four-year university. How far back can I put my experiences on my resume? Can I put things from freshman year of high school? That's a really good question. So, if you are a freshman now, only if it's things that don't put, let's say, for example, okay, I'm not sure what types of things you've done, but if it's something that you've continued to do, I would say yes. I mean, right now, as a first year at a four-year, that's what you have. So include all of that, right? Include all of that. What'll happen is next semester, you'll get more, right? You'll have more coursework, you'll have more stuff. And then eventually, by the time you get to sophomore year, when you were a sophomore, you're not going to put anything from high school, right? Maybe you might put, a few things, but not very much, right? But right now, as a first year, it's fine to put stuff from freshman year of high school. But you want to be very clear about what those things are. If you use acronyms, spell the acronyms out, right? Because not everyone will know what they are, right? And really, really emphasize and highlight how these things are going to make you a good candidate for the university or the university research setting, that is, right? Or lab, you know what I mean? But how those things, translate. But great question. And again, as uh, have more things to put on your resume, then you'll drop the high school stuff. But by the time that you go to sophomore year, you're gonna not include the resume stuff. Okay. So tips for successful application. So this is an important one. If you have any uncertainties at all, ask before you apply, right? This is another piece of advice that I think is really important is to read the FAQs. Now, here's the thing. Most of these programs have an FAQs page on the website. And so I would look that over first before you start emailing people, because what happens is if you just simply email them a bunch of questions that are on the website, they're going to know, right? And that's a huge tell right there. And think about it, like if you're coming to this program and you're applying to this program and you're not kind of paying attention to directions, that's kind of a red flag, right? So you don't want red flags, you want green flags, right? So only ask if they're not in the FAQs. And this is another one. This is a very important one. Make sure that your schedule permits full participation, right? Do not be that student that's like, hey, I need 2 weeks off because my family's going on a cruise, right? No. If it's an 8-week program and you're going to miss 2 weeks because your family's going on a cruise, then you're not available, right? Don't take classes. I know a lot of students are very tempted to take classes because they're like, well, my classes are online or it won't, it won't conflict. It will conflict. I guarantee you it will conflict because here's the deal. If you're taking summer classes and you're doing this program, many, many times they will have social events and activities to participate in. You're not going to be able to because you're going to be studying for your finals, you're going to be doing homework or projects, right? So even the social activities that, sometimes students don't understand, that's a command performance. You have to go to those social activities, right? You have to go to everything. They're paying for you to be there. You got to be engaged. You got to be involved. So don't take classes. Many times they will say, don't take classes for a reason, right? Now, let's say, for example, you're on the quarter system, right? I've had this happen. Maybe you're on the quarter system and you're like, I'm going to miss the first 4 days. Okay, that's a different story, right? But, simply because like, oh, I'm, taking off for a week for vacation or whatever, don't do that. Don't ask for extensions either. They have deadlines, meet the deadlines, apply to more than one program. I think 5 is a really good number to apply to.
And also,
Um,
that's a really good way if they tell you not to enroll in a class and you end up doing it, you do, or that's a really good way for you to get booted because they make you sign that you have to follow these rules, and so and that's like not a really good thing to do. Or showing up on your first day and say, oh, I'm taking a week vacation with my parents, and there's a wedding, every almost every weekend, and and it's kind of like that's also a really good way to say, well, thanks for applying, and you took away somebody else's spot,
yeah,
but that's your choice to decide, and um, maybe see you next year because those are like really big ethical things
yeah,
that people don't
definitely.
look kindly on. And so, um, yeah, so I've actually had that happen where people show up on the first day and they tell you all these things that they're going on in their life. And it's like, are we like, chopped liver? Are we like your third choice? It's kind of like asking out some, going out on a date with someone and saying, hey, I got a date, with this person, that person, or whatever. And it's like, wait a minute, like, so yeah, so don't do that. If you have a busy summer, if you have a family commitment or social or all of those things. Now, one of the other things, if you have to work, or let's say you're going to a program that requires, like you said, oh my gosh, I have to like work a part-time job to pay for things, like let them know, saying, hey, I have some financial struggles, yeah, and I'm not going to be able to do it financially, and they may be able to find you some funding, um, or your home institution as well. I know like somebody was doing a summer program and they didn't cover housing, but they had to put a deposit down. Their school financial aid office helped them, gave them a bridge loan, and they were able to pay for their summer and then pay back to school. So those things are very different than um, than not being honest about it. But there's a lot of resources out there as well.
Absolutely. And on that note, thank you for mentioning that, because I also want to mention two other things. One, um, if they provide housing, you're expected to live in the housing, right? So let's say, for example, the programs at UCLA, right? And you're like, oh, I'm from LA, I can easily commute. Um, it's a residential program, right? It is a residential program. And so part of it is being, engaged and involved and there with the other participants, right? So even though you're like, oh, I know, but I live close by. Yeah, I know, but it's not a commuter program. It's a residential program, right? And to your point, it also shows like, oh, you don't want to stay in the dorms, you know what I mean? So you have to do that. In addition, aside from that, there was one other point I was going to make about, so you want to, go ahead. If let's say, for example, you get paid a stipend, right? You all will get paid a stipend. You might want to ask, do I get paid at the beginning? Do I get paid in the middle? Do I get paid at the end? That's a very important one, because if finances are an issue, and for all of us, finances are an issue, ask them. Sometimes what they'll do is they'll pay you the first part immediately and the second part either at the end or the middle. But if you're like, usually the reimbursement, right? That's an exception. The reimbursement, if you fly, usually the reimbursement, they'll either, reimburse you at the end, or maybe ask them, are you able to book my ticket directly? I don't have a lot of, finances are an issue, whatever, but just be upfront and honest about it. What you don't want to do is you don't want to go and be stressed about, money, right? So definitely, make sure you ask them, and that's a fair question. I mean, think about it. If you were doing an internship, would you'd say, oh, when do we get paid? Do we get paid every month? Do we get paid every other week? Right? What is that? So that's definitely, you want to be communicating about that. Don't be that student that's like, emailing them every week. Don't be that student. It's fine to, verify that it's been received. If you don't get like an email confirmation, you can send them a short and sweet email, dear so-and-so, I have applied for this program and I'm very excited about it and hope to hear from you soon. Just want to, verify that it's been received. Short and sweet. The person that is typically coordinating the program is not always the PI, right? It's not always the PI. Sometimes it's, the administrator, the coordinator, the director, but it's not always the PI. And so I've actually had students, I had this happen to me one time. I had a student who totally circumvented the application, went straight to the PI, went straight to one of the faculty and said, yeah, I want to do research this summer, and the faculty was like, sure. And I was like, well, you still have to apply. You know what I mean? You still have to apply. So don't do that as well. Just as a courtesy, you want to make sure that you work with whoever is running the program, right? That's very important. And then use your school email. Use your school email. Check your email frequently, right? Don't use like, 4 different emails. That makes it confusing. Use your school email, professional email. And if they need something, maybe they need proof of, health insurance. Maybe they have a liability form that you have to fill out. Maybe they need your updated transcripts, send them that.
Yeah,
All right.
the other thing is that the people that manage the program have a lot of say. So if you are rude to them or think that, oh, because for example, if faculty or professor is in charge of a program, they're not doing the managing the day-to-day stuff. They're busy doing writing grants and doing other things. And um so don't like get into this whole thing of, oh, I could just like you basically what you're doing is you're taking somebody off who's doing the day-to-day work, and it will have adverse impact on you and how you are viewed. And so they work really closely. And so if they're so don't be that person that, they're like, well, this person, because it will reflect, and they, and basically the last shot will be coming from the person on top, because they're there to support the people that uh, work with them. So just, you know, if they ask you to do something or manage something, if you don't like something, don't do that, because that will really piss a lot of people off.
Have a good connection and collaboration with whomever is running the program. If there's issues, right? If there's issues with your, card key access, if there's issues with, anything, that person that's running the program is going to be the one to help you, not your PI, right? If you have issues with your card key, if your stipend, this and that, and the PI is just like, I don't know, like I'm just your lab supervisor, right?
Yeah, the PI has no clue about any of that
Yeah,
stuff.
they know the research, they know all that, but that person that's, administering the program, they're a very, very important person as well. All right. So here's some examples. So here's a program, just some, kind of examples that would be programs that you might consider. So this is the Summer Health Professions Education Program. This program has been around for a long, long time. It used to be called SMDEP, but then they changed it. This is a program that's specifically for freshmen or sophomores, minimum GPA of 2.5. The applications are open now. They have 12 sites throughout the US, and these are for students that are dental, medical, nursing, pharmacy, physical therapy, public health, optometry, right? And so these programs, this is what I would consider an enrichment program. And so that might be something to consider. Maybe you're thinking about, one of these health professions. If you want to explore that, this might be a really good way. And as I mentioned, I had a student who did this program. She actually ended up going to pharmacy school. She did this program long, long time ago at Yale, and it was truly a life-changing experience. I mean, this was a student who was like, I want to go to Berkeley, I want to do engineering, and she did this program, and she's like, just kidding, I want to go to she actually ended up going to a liberal arts college because she got a full ride scholarship, and then she eventually went to pharmacy school. So again, this is a really good program, and you're going to meet a lot of people and make a lot of friends in these programs. Another one, the NIH Community College Summer Enrichment Program. This is the one. Now, this application actually, the community college one, is quite early. It's in January. January 2025 is when you have to have your application in. And then January 15th is when your reference application letters need to be in. Now, again, here's something very important. At noon Eastern Standard Time, right? Sometimes the applications will be, time stamped. So you want to make sure that you do that. I always say don't wait till the last minute, so if it's due on January 8th, 2025 at noon, pretend it's January 7th, right? And similarly, when you request your letters of recommendation, you might tell your faculty or your, recommenders, even though they're due on the 15th, I'm hoping to have everything wrapped up, by the 12th, right? Just to give some space, right? Just to give that. But planning, and you have a break coming up. So all of you have the winter break coming up. So this is a beautiful time to get those applications done. So they will accept any major. But students should have, STEM related health courses, biochem, math. But again, any of those majors, and this is a paid program. This is a very good program. And again, you have from the expert. You can go back in the library and look at the video and hear straight from the program.
Yeah,
John
she
Hopkins.
actually the person who runs the whole program was here last night, so you can go watch the
Yeah,
video.
exactly. And make sure you say, I heard about it from pre-med CC, and I'm really interested in the program. Here's the questions I have, and then you'll be able to get it straight from the source. Johns Hopkins is another one. They have they're looking for students with experience in biomedical and or public health research from a variety of backgrounds, including students from racial, ethnic groups underrepresented in science and medicine, students from low-income, underserved backgrounds, students from disabilities. And then this is for research exposure for those interested in careers in science, medical, medicine, and public health. So that's a good one as well. I've had a number of students that have gotten their first research experience at Johns Hopkins, had a good experience. I actually had a student who worked in their applied physics lab when he was a community college student, came to Berkeley, got into a bunch of UCs for grad school. And then he was like, you know what? I actually really like Johns Hopkins, right? So it's a great, experience. It is on the East Coast, so if you're interested in going to the East Coast, this would be a great opportunity. And I would say, again, these programs have really good track records. Some of these programs have been around for many, many years, and you will meet people. And I would also say, make sure that you connect with people after, stay in contact with people after the program, because chances are their academic and career aspirations are similar to yours. So it might be that you go to this program and you meet another student, and then you end up as grad school together, right? Or transfer to the same university. So definitely want to keep those connections. All right. So if you are on Instagram, be sure to follow us on Instagram, reufinder.com. LinkedIn. I love, love, love LinkedIn. So connect with me. Connect with me on LinkedIn, Tiffany Reardon. I do post a lot of, opportunities on LinkedIn for students and for folks to get involved. So definitely do that. The REU Finder, I've been getting a lot of different posts like every day. And I'm during this break, I'll be spending more time updating those. But yeah, and in addition, fun fact, a lot of the NSF proposals are being reviewed now. So so they're gonna be really, really eager to fill those slots. So regularly, frequently explore opportunities, because there's opportunities all the time, right? It's not like a static thing where like, okay, this is all we have. Like, there's always opportunities and things like that. Does anyone have any questions about anything? Okay. For the NIH letters, they're asking for science professors, but my science professors haven't seen me in labs, or the labs are run by TAs and not the professors. Okay, so that's a very common thing. I'm assuming you go to like a big research school. Very, very common thing. So here's the thing. So I would say go to your TAs, thank them for their, guidance, because TAs do a lot of the work as well. TAs, it might be grad students, might be TAs, but I would say let them know what you're applying to. let them know and remind them, kind of, how you're doing in the class. Maybe there's some, thing that you've, like, I don't know how well you know the TA, but, kind of give them a reminder and let them know that you're applying to this program. What they will typically do is, and I see this a lot for grad school, they will include, if the faculty is willing to write the letter, right? Sometimes what the faculty will say is, my class is, X number of students, maybe you have like 500 students in the class, right? It's a pretty big class, but I can vouch that here is how the student is doing academically, and I've had limited interactions, but I do see potential. In addition, they sometimes will include a quote either from the TA or the professor. Now, here's the cool thing. If you go to the TA's office hours, if you first go through the TA and then you kind of go to the professor, and you also should be going to the professor's office hours. Even if it's a big class, they still have office hours, and you should still go to their office hours. But here's the cool thing. Look at your professor's website. Where did they go to school? Where did they do their undergrad? Where did they do their grad? Did they do a postdoc, right? Is there any connection from your professor to this institution that you're applying to, right? Let's say, for example, you are at, I don't know, University of Michigan, right? Let's say you're at University of Michigan and you're applying at a program that is hosted by Duke, right? And it turns out that your program that you're applying to at Duke is in the same discipline that your professor's research expertise is. There's probably some connection, right? So utilizing those connections are huge. In addition, if you talk to your professor and let them know that you're applying to this program, they might even say, "Oh, what are you interested in? Oh, have you looked at this, institution? This institution is very well known for their research, in this area," right? I once had a student who, applied to Berkeley when I was running one of our RUs, and he was from Louisiana State. Well, it turns out that the student that there was a faculty member that was like, "Oh yeah, I'm really excited to work with students from Louisiana State," right? So depending on the connection, and those connections are always there, you just have to look for them. But going to your professor's webpage, looking at the research that they're doing, and really kind of being very clear about what you're interested in and why is really important. And again, I cannot overemphasize those connections. When I work with students that are applying to grad school, we're like detectives. We will go to every single website. We'll say, okay, well, where did they go to school? Okay, what's their, what did they, major in? What is their connection to this and that? You have to do the same thing. And again, you have to give them talking points, right? They know what you have to say is, can you write me a strong letter of recommendation? Here's the program I'm applying to, and here's why I'm applying to this program, right? And here's the deal. Faculty know that's part of the gig, right? That's part of the gig. Part of my job, part of everyone's job that works, in these spaces is to provide letters of recommendation. We're not obligated, but it is part of the job. So when I say we're not obligated for every student that asks, but if you make it easy, it's like, oh yeah, like this is an easy way to do it. Another question.
The only thing
Most,
that I would add too is that
uh-huh,
99, like a lot of these situations, if you ask the professor, make sure you also talk to the TA. 9 out of 10 times, what ends up happening is the TA will write the letter of recommendation,
yes.
and the professor will put it on the letterhead and sign it. So that's why, you know, you have to be, you can't crap on your TA and expect the professor to write a good letter because the TA is more likely to write that. They write the letter and they will sign it, because also the TA will also know that their signature and weight doesn't carry much. And plus, I don't think they could use the letterhead.
Yeah.
So they know that, and they will write it, and then your professor will sign it. So that's why I need to talk to both of them and have a good relationship with both of them as well.
Exactly. Absolutely. Okay, another question. Most of the summer opportunity I've seen start around the end of May and early August. But my community college goes by a quarter system, and our spring quarter ends at the end of June. Is it uncommon for summer internships to run that late in the semester? So, if it's they have, so a lot of schools are on the quarter system, and so most of the programs will start. Some depending, but some of them will start at like mid-June or early June. If it is for, school, um, that's okay to ask them. That would be a good FAQ, right? Like, hey, is there, is it possible for me to participate? Here's when my school ends, and here's when, here's the dates, right? And so if you do that, you just want to kind of share your calendar, right? Like here's the date that I would arrive on, and here's when the program starts. And just let them know. But they know that not everybody's on the same system. Some people are semester, some people are, quarter system. So typically they will try to work around that. I've had students that go to other UCs that that were on the quarter system, and in addition, I also had, it was funny, I also had a student who I had to proctor an exam one time because she was in the REU, and we proctored the exam. And so usually they'll work around it if they can, but the key is you want to let them know before, right? You don't want them to say surprise, like I'm in this program, and guess what? I'm not gonna start for 2 weeks, right? So you got to
Yeah,
just
don't be proactive. I would say 99% of the programs, because there's no such thing as 100%, will like respect, and obviously like also to make it easier for them, like show an evidence that, hey, I'm registered in this class, and all your student schedule says the start and the end date of your class. So provide that for them. But let them know ahead of time, and they're not going to make you miss school to be in a summer program. 99%, there might be that 1.1% that's going to do that. But most of them have listed it in the FAQ. So they say, hey, if this is the start date, but we will accommodate for school schedule and those things. You could do that. Um, but I would say like, and then the other part of it too, because they're paying you and you're an employee. So what they'll do is they'll say, okay, everybody starts on, I don't know, June 1st. You start June 15th, but then you could stay longer because your school doesn't start till middle of September versus other people school that starts in middle of August. So they'll work with you. But don't tell them the first day, or don't show up the first day and tell them, oh, but I'm in school. Like, wait, apply, get accepted, and then let them know. And they could, the more information you give, the the better and
yeah,
earlier.
absolutely, yeah, definitely. Um, okay, would I be able to get a recommendation letter from my English professor, or does the faculty have to be part of STEM? So if they indicate it has to be part of STEM, what I would say, if your English professor, if they want two letters, and you get one from, let's say your math teacher, your chemistry teacher, and you get one from your English faculty, that would be fine. And and what I would make sure to do though is I would make sure to let them know about the program, and even for the faculty, the STEM faculty as well, let them know what the program entails, right? So I actually had a student, it wasn't a program that I was running, it was a program that I was reading for, and it was a program specifically for transfer students. And they had a beautiful letter written by an English professor, and it talked about um, an honors project they did. right? So make sure that you give them, right? Even though it sounds like you've done really well in the class, which is probably why you're thinking about asking them for a letter. Ask them if they could tie it to how you'd be successful in the program, right? So because if ultimately, if you think about it, like as a researcher, you do a lot of writing, right? You do communication and writing and so some of these programs might even, not all of them, but some of them, they might want you to write a technical paper where you have to do, research, and in every program you have to do research, but, the technical paper, like, preparing a journal article, for example, or something like that. And so I would just, help them to craft something. And the best way to do that would be by talking points, right? That would be my advice. But yeah, I mean, anyone who can vouch for your, ability to excel in a program would be helpful. There's another one. Do you mind navigating us through your REU site? Yeah, if we have time, do we have time to quickly do that?
Sure.
Okay, so let's see. Okay, so let's go to, let me check. REU Finder. Okay, so let's say we'll look at community college, for example. Okay, so if we look at community college, and let me share my screen again. Okay, so share. Okay, so if you're able to see my screen, okay. So basically what we have, so if you are a community college student, look at freshmen and sophomores and the community college students, right? Don't just look at community college students, but because you're considered like lower division, coursework. So go to the freshman page, go to the sophomore page, and go to the community college student page. If you're also an international or undocumented student, you can also, look at those pages as well. But here's some examples. So let's see. So for example, here's one, UC Merced Physics, right? So UC Merced Physics, this is what they're, looking for. This program's been around since 2022. They're looking for 10 students. Here's kind of what they're looking for. And then the deadline to apply, you have to be a US citizen or permanent resident. And then they want sophomores, juniors, and non-graduating seniors, right? And then the application. This particular one does not include a GPA, right? So they're not really, all that interested in the GPA. They really are looking at the holistic, application of an applicant. Let's see, one more, maybe. Oh, here's one. This is a good one. So the distributed research experience for undergrads, this would be a student that's interested in computing research. This is an interesting because this has no citizenship restriction. So you could be undocumented, you could be a international student, any student, but you have to be attending a U.S. Institution. Now the early application deadline, right? The early application deadline is December 1st, but the general one is February 25th, right? So you can still apply, but it sounds to me like they're probably doing a rolling admissions, even though they don't say that. So, I would take a look at that one. Here's one. This is at Carnegie Mellon. This is the reuse program for students interested in software engineering. So this one is good. So this program is especially interested in promoting research for students traditionally underrepresented in computer science and for first and second year undergraduate students. So if you're a first year, if you're a second year, definitely applied, but maybe you're a third year, but you're from a background traditionally underrepresented in computer science, then you can apply. Neither research experience nor advanced coursework in CS or software engineering is required. And then again, they don't have a GPA restriction. And then, their deadline. So, kind of going through all these different ones. Here's another one. Clemson has one. And this is for, physics, biology, chemistry, and engineering. So chances are, and one of the things I love about these programs is you're going to meet students from all different majors. So that's pretty cool. And, for those of you that are thinking about grad school, I had a student that was, I remember she was considering PhD, but then she kind of wanted to do pre-med, and she was like, kind of going back and forth. She actually ended up going to med school. But her faculty that she worked with, she did a lot of great research, and she presented at a number of conferences, and she also continued her research even after the summer program. That's very, very common, right? If you continue the research, maybe you do a publication, or maybe maybe there's an opportunity to continue the work. I've seen that a lot. And then, of course, your goal when you participate in these experiences is, one, to get a strong letter of recommendation, and two, to pay it forward, right? So, you want to be that ambassador for your school. And so if you know somebody at your school that would be a good candidate, encourage them to apply, right? And sometimes they'll actually have like formal ambassador programs where you can do that. And you don't want to because here's the thing, if you don't make a good impression, as sad as it is, it also ruins it for the next person, right? So you want to make a really, really good impression, because that opens up doors and opportunities for other people from your school. And also, I would also, if you participate in one of these activities, if you're at a community college, and if you're at a, 4-year, you can actually, get in the, school newspaper, the online newspaper. Maybe it's a, old school, like, school newspaper. Like, you can celebrate that. You can tell them, hey, I want to share this opportunity. I think it's a great opportunity for students. Here's what I did. Here's, information about the program. That is a really good way to kind of put yourself out there. And I'm telling you, it's like a boomerang. You put out what you're interested in, and then it comes back to you. And that's also just nice, just to inspire other students. Does anyone have any last questions? I realize we're over time, and I want to be respectful of the time.
Anyone have any questions or until?
Okay. Well, if not, definitely I'll share the presentation, and I think this is being recorded, so you can certainly watch it for your friends. Tell your friends to visit REU Finder, tell your friends to apply to research programs. And again, it's not, you don't have to go in there knowing everything. It's a research experience, right? It's not a research masterclass. It's a research experience. So you go in there, you get the experience, you see if you like it, and it's just part of your academic journey. And I really applaud you all for, for exploring these opportunities. I think that there's a very, very exciting world of research ahead for you. And I really wish you all good luck in all of your endeavors. And feel free to reach out and connect on LinkedIn if you have any questions. If I can be of help, I'd be more than happy to support you in that. And then if any of you are looking to transfer, I can help you with that too. So it's a win-win.
Thank you again for joining us once again, and everyone have a great weekend. Good luck on your finals.